and he's joining us now. Dr. Wittman, good to have you with us, sir.
John, it's great to be with you and Pete this morning, and I am absolutely 100% on the side of the tribe. I was just there on campus on Tuesday, and everybody's excited about the game with UVA, so go Tribe.
I love it, Congressman. You probably can't hear it, but we have like a ESPN College Game Day atmosphere here in Charlottesville. There is a throng of about 600, mostly William & Mary students out in front of us, and they just went wild when you said that. Way to be.
See, this is why Rob Wittman is so good at what he does.
Great William & Mary alumni that work in the office. A lot of great William & Mary connections. So we are all in for the Tribe to win the game tomorrow.
All right. Well, actually, it's tonight. That's why we're here at the
okay.
Yeah,
oh wow.
Tonight.
Okay. Well, today. Yeah, we wanted to win today. So.
All right. So Rob Wittman, all in. Dr. Wittman, Pete, all in for the Tribe. All in.
That's Big Mo for us, baby. That's Big Mo.
Big Mo, because when they're pulling the upset, I'm thinking about Wittman cheering for us. And anyway, Congressman, it's good to have you. I'm with Pete Snyder today at the Pete Snyder household here in Charlottesville, Virginia, our new coverage. Congressman, look, we're going into we're getting back in session. My one question is this: the USMCA, which is the bill that the White House, that Trump negotiated to get rid of NAFTA. Everybody knows I've been railing against NAFTA for a quarter century. I hated it. I hated it when Clinton did it, when Gingrich signed off on it. I'm not a fan. I'm a protectionist. But the USMCA is it's a much better deal than NAFTA. And we've got farmers in your district, here in Charlottesville, in Riggleman's district, in the 5th, who's going to be with us, Spanberger's district. We have farmers that need the USMCA passed. And as you know, Vice President Pence has been going around the country jawboning for it. And yet we can't even get your speaker to bring it to the floor. Meantime, every week it goes by, farmers in our sphere could be benefiting from it, but they don't want to bring it up because they don't want to give President Trump a victory. Well, the victory isn't for Trump, it's for the country and for the people that in their district that would benefit for it. How do you even reconcile that?
Well, John, you can't reconcile that because this does need to come to the House floor. It does need to be voted on. It is a much, much better deal than NAFTA. There are a lot of things I think will be tremendously beneficial for our agricultural community, but also folks in the manufacturing sector. This is light years better than NAFTA. So it needs to come to the floor. It needs to be debated. It needs to pass. The Senate needs to do the same and send it to the president's desk. And you know, there is a time element of this because, as you know, both Canada and Mexico, their legislative bodies have passed this deal, and the passage in those countries has a finite length to it. So if the United States doesn't act, then the deal itself expires in its approval from both Mexico and Canada. So there is a criticality in time, and it needs to come to the House floor. It needs to be debated, and it needs to pass.
So why can't you go to the speaker? Why can't you go to Nancy's office when you guys get back on Monday, knock on her door, and say, "Look, there's farmers in my district that are suffering. Why don't you bring this to the floor?" Why can't you at least ask her that and get a response?
Well, yes, John, we can certainly do that. Believe me, I have communicated with the leadership both on our side and on Speaker Pelosi's office to bring this to the floor. I think it's not only incumbent upon myself but also other members of Congress, both sides of the aisle, to go to the Speaker and say, bring this to the floor. You know, there's another mechanism that can be used called a discharge petition, where you actually, with 218 members of Congress, can force a bill to come to the floor. That may also be another option if the Speaker doesn't move on this with some haste.
Well, I think she should move on it. And when you've got a situation where the Speaker of the House is letting Americans that would benefit from this suffer because she doesn't want to give the president a political victory, I really think that is just despicable. And, look, I had Bobby Scott on my show the other day, your colleague, and I go to his picnic, and he's my congressman in the 3rd District. And even Bobby Scott was saying, yes, it should come to the floor. We should vote for it. And I asked him, I said, are you going to vote for it? And he said, I don't even know what bill is going to come up. I have to be able to read it first. So even and he's a committee chairman of what, Commerce and Education and Labor, and even Bobby Scott was saying we ought to be able to see something that we can make a decision on.
Yes, it must be done, and be done with timeliness. Again, because of the expiration that happens with the approvals by Mexico and Canada. So bring it to the floor, debate it. Let's get this done.
Well, I think we need to do that. Congressman, we have a new analysis out. Wages in the Trump economy in 2018, get this, went up 5.6%. This is a record wage growth for 1 year. We haven't seen this in 5 decades. So wages up 5.6%, and we're going to get the jobs report coming out in August. ADP is predicting that the economy has added about 200,000, 195 to 200,000 jobs, where the economists on Wall Street that are always predicting gloom and doom said it would be about 125. So it's going to be about a 70% increase over what's been predicted. Wages are up, jobs are up. What is up with all these people on Wall Street telling us the economy is headed for a recession when we keep getting these amazing numbers? What is up with that?
Well, John, it's not just those amazing numbers with wage growth, which is fantastic, and with a record number of jobs being created, but it's also in people's attitudes. If you look at polling and people's attitudes towards the economy, consumer confidence is at a record high. Consumer involvement in the economy, that is through purchasing and other decisions they make with their money, are at record highs too. So all those indicators are that the public feels good about the economy. The numbers are saying the economy is going in the right direction. People have more money in their pocket. We're here in Virginia at 2.9% unemployment rate. That's literally full employment. So all the all the facts point to the opposite direction. The naysayers want to try to talk this economy down. I think there's such strength in the economy that it's hard to talk it down, especially when consumers feel very, very positive about what's going on around them. So I think in spite of what some are saying and trying to bring the economy to a point where it's going to slow down, it has got such momentum and such positive efforts being undertaken by the folks driving the economy that I just think it's going to continue.
Congressman, it's amazing we're having this discussion because on the other side of the aisle, and I know we're very partisan today, and by the way, we're with Congressman Rob Wittman. Dr. Wittman is a Republican congressman, 1st District of Virginia. That's the northern neck area through Fredericksburg and central Virginia. And Congressman, we have these partisan conversations, which I don't really prefer to do, but this is the reality of it. You've got a Speaker of the House that isn't bringing legislation to the floor to benefit Americans, and a lot of people in Virginia, obviously, in Maryland and where our coverage is, the Carolinas, won't bring a bill to the floor because she doesn't want to give the president a victory, right? That's sick. I mean, I don't even know how to classify it other than it's sick. I mean, I've never seen this in my life. So you got that going on. Then you've got a leading presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders, that, I don't know, I guess he just read Malthus, the old economic historian, and basically said the answer to climate change is to have U.S. taxpayers paying for the killing of babies in the womb all over the globe. So now he wants population control. I mean, that's out of Malthus in the 1800s. It's like we're going back to medieval times. It's almost like I'm in some kind of these people live in an alternative universe. Never have I seen a speaker that wouldn't bring a bill to the floor that is going to benefit U.S. citizens because they don't want to give the president a victory 18 months out before he runs for re-election. I'm flabbergasted by this.
Well, John, you point out some really disturbing elements of what we see around us today, and that is things are hyper-partisan, unfortunately. And as I talk to folks across the 1st District and elsewhere across Virginia, almost to a person, they say, Rob, this ought to be about getting things done. We understand there's political divisions, but there are certain things that this country must get done, certain things that are not political, should not be partisan, should be done in the best interest of the country. And I think people are fatigued with the amount of political back and forth, and they want us to govern. That's what we are placed there for. And while I understand the other side has differences with the president, it is about doing what's right for the country. And I couldn't agree more, John. I think that if the majority in the House wants to do what they were elected to do, then they should be bringing these bills to the floor. If all their focus is on politics, then we will languish where we are now. And I think the American people will make their judgments when it comes time for what I call our job interviews. That is in 2020. I think that they will gauge the majority party on what they have done to lead and what they have done to accomplish things. Right now, it's been too much politics and not enough governing. So listen, things absolutely have to get done, and things that are fundamental to our country. We had an opportunity to stay in Washington in August. I begged the Speaker to do that to get these appropriations bills done. Now, we're going to go back next week and have 13 legislating days left to get all 12 appropriations bills done. And I will tell you the likelihood of that happening is minuscule, and then we will be in this situation of another continuing resolution, which wastes money, or in another shutdown scenario. Absolutely unacceptable. So, again, another opportunity to get the job done that was not taken advantage of, and here we are in a very predictable place where the American people are as frustrated as I am and saying, you got to get this stuff done, and it's not getting done.
Congressman, you've hit it on the head. We need to get things done, and unfortunately and fortunately, sometimes elections have consequences. You win again and again and again in the 1st District. As you well know, because you used to serve in the House of Delegates, we have elections this year in Virginia, and we have a lot on the line. We have at stake, whether we keep the majorities in both houses or the General Assembly. There's been a marked difference in Congress since we're now in the minority, and what that means to the legislative agenda. Can you talk to the listeners a little bit about what's at stake here in Virginia this year and the differences that you face on the federal side?
Absolutely, Pete. We see how the House is operating in Washington. And we know that in Virginia, we have been blessed through the years in what members on both sides of the aisle call the Virginia way, and that is getting things done. The General Assembly has been able to do that. But what we've seen in Virginia, unfortunately, is more and more of what I call Washington-type divisive politics creeping in. I think this election cycle is going to be a choice between, how you want Virginia to operate and other elements, too, that are fundamental to Virginia. Virginia has been ranked the number one most business-friendly state in the nation, and it's because of what our General Assembly has done and what they've done in concert with folks on the other side of the aisle, and even with the governor's office. That takes effort. My concern is if we lose the majority, you will see things happen like taking away the right to work in Virginia, which is an incredibly important part of our economy. And even folks on the other side of the aisle are supportive. Some of them are supportive of right to work. If that goes away, that creates a significant impact on the state of Virginia. Also, if you come in and have a massive increase in minimum wage, and there's folks on the other side of the aisle that are running on the idea of upwards of an $18 minimum wage, the impact that will have on employment in Virginia is staggering. And those numbers are real. We see that those things will happen. Right to work laws do affect people's decisions to locate in a state, for businesses to grow. We do know that minimum wage does have an effect on the number of jobs. We saw the Congressional Budget Office talk about what it will do nationwide if we were to put in place a $15 minimum wage. So it's just those fundamental things, Pete, where there's a stark difference between the two parties, and we will see that if the other side gets the majority in the House and the Senate in Virginia, things will be markedly different. So this is indeed a debate about which direction people want Virginia to go, and the choice will be clear. The number one most business-friendly state takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of things that happen within our legislative body for that to occur. I don't think anybody wants that to go away, but we see some things that the other side stands for that could have a significant impact on that. So, yes, this election cycle is going to have significant impact, and that means everyone has to get engaged and everybody has to be involved, because we saw just this last time around that the majority in the House of Delegates was determined by a random drawing of two names out of a bowl after we had a tied election and a split between the parties and number of seats held.
Well, Congressman, I know you're out there hustling and doing everything you can for folks running for the House of Delegates and for state Senate. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for continuing to lead. And, you're spot on in your analysis of what's really truly at stake for job creators, for taxpayers of Virginia. I've also heard various socialist Democratic candidates out there talking about getting rid of the Dillon rule so that localities can jack up minimum wage to $18, $20 an hour. And that would just have a devastating impact on Virginia's economy. So thank you for everything that you're doing out there, not only in Congress, but also out there on the campaign trail for those running for office this year.
Congressman Rob Wittman, thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it. Live today at Pete Snyder's house in Charlottesville, our new coverage here, 100.5 FM. And we're going to be tailgating all day. William and Mary traveling to UVA today. There are 5, I just saw the line went up there, a 5-touchdown underdog. So if you bet William and Mary like I am today, you're going to get 34.5 points. I'm going to wait till game time. I'll probably get 36.5. So even if they get beat by 5 touchdowns, I still win.
Go Rob, Tribe. Go Tribe.
Go Tribe plus 35. Who's a 5-touchdown underdog? Rob Wittman, doctor, thanks for being with us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. Thanks, Pete.